Maximilien Robespierre in particular, as this kind of prophet of purity, has backed himself into a corner by July 1794, where the only way he can be consistent to what he already believes, to what he sees around him, is to start saying that almost literally everyone except him and a tiny circle of true believers are objectively counter-revolutionary. And by late July, he is saying this publicly, that the people and the convention need to get together and somehow purge themselves of what in some lates looks like the majority of everyone. And other individual political leaders who've seen other factions go to the guillotine, who know that they personally have annoyed Robespierre and his friends, they are able finally to say, look, fellas,
we're next.
Hang together or hang separately. We have to do something about this. And the final ultimate absurdity is that what they do, what happens on the 9th of Thermidor, and particularly in the days afterwards, after Robespierre is safely dead, is that they will accuse him of being that thing that everyone else was accused of being. Robespierre will be publicly declared to have been intending to crown himself King of France and to marry the former king's daughter and to make peace with the crowned heads of Europe over the top of the bodies of the French. He will be declared to be the arch counter-revolutionary, and that will justify the extermination of him and all his friends. And then they will spend the next several months just figuring out how big a sigh of relief they can take.
I wonder if you can pinpoint with Robespierre, where exactly does he turn from this, radical revolutionary advocating for a more universal enfranchisement? And I also read that he was against slavery, he was opposing the war and so forth. Where does he turn into this, like you said, priest ahead of the killing machine? Does he realize that that's happening, or is he just carried away in a sense?
Yeah, I think it's really a process which happens in the second half of 1793. That he's always been someone who's understood himself as having a special relationship with the ordinary people. He's got this kind of idea that he's got his own
Man
sort
of the people.
personal metaphysical connection with them. I mean, he's not a man of the people in any other sense. He's a very kind of prissy, refined, delicate individual.
Oh, really?
He's not a drinker. He's not a man who likes laughing and joking. Danton, in that respect, is much more a man of the people in that sense. He's a man who could have had a whole tavern in stitches, whereas Robespierre would have been hiding in the corner drinking lemon juice.
A bit of an introvert.
Very much an introvert, except when he has the opportunity to make very long speeches, which he also likes doing. But in 1793, this is the process that they've gone through. After the war has been expanded, after these initial measures of the terror have been brought in, there is just so much continued betrayal. Those Brissotins, those Girondins, those moderate Jacobins, or what are now moderate Jacobins, they are mixed up in conflict with the ultra radicals. They end up getting purged from the convention, and they don't sit back and take that. Their confederates in places like Lyon and Bordeaux and Marseille, they start fighting against the central authorities. The Girondin leadership flee to Normandy, towards Bordeaux. They stoke up literally a second civil war on top of the other one that's already raging in the Vendée. And that will take another huge mobilization. That will take the siege of Lyon, a siege of Marseille, the reconquest of Toulon, where they've actually tried to surrender the French fleet to the British. The 1793 sees really tremendous acts of treason carried out by people who were Republican leaders, and tremendous acts of treason which are punished brutally with military suppression, with trials in front of the Revolutionary Tribunal in Paris, the execution of all these Brissotin leaders who go to the guillotine absolutely unrepentant, singing the Marseillaise. that sense that if they can be traitors, if they can behave like that, anybody
Anybody can
can.
be. Right.
And Robespierre's, his belief in purity, his belief in that people should be like him, they should be completely selfless, they should be dedicated to the people. When people start coming to him in late 1793 and saying, look, here's some evidence, actual evidence that other people in these ruling committees are corrupt. There's a huge financial scandal that sort of bubbles below the surface throughout these months. That there is real corruption there, and he's seen as someone to whom this can be confided. But then he's also mixed up in these attempts to suppress ideological opposition, to make people like his friend Camille Desmoulins stop publishing inflammatory things. And Camille will not stop publishing inflammatory things. So Camille will end up getting mixed up with Danton. After they've got rid of the ultra radicals and they get rid of the moderates, they will get rid of Camille, they will get rid of Danton, they will execute Camille's wife on trumped up charges of being involved in some kind of conspiracy. Yeah. Robespierre is plunging into this, and you can wonder whether, to a certain extent, he has become sort of morally lost. He has lost his way. That there is only forward. There is only assuming that everyone with initiative is bad, is capable of being bad. There is only that kind of paranoid attention. But that is the road he pursues. He has become, by the last 3 or 4 months of his life, dangerous to other people, because he will accuse anyone of anything if he thinks it explains why everything's not going perfectly. Biographers will argue forever about to what extent his mental state is compromised, to what extent he's lost touch with reality. But his attitudes are also shaping reality. A lot of other people are going along with this until the moment where it looks like the laser beam, the eye of Sauron, has turned on them. And at that point, finally, enough of them can get together to get rid of him. And then it turns out that nobody was his friend. He is the scapegoat for everything, because, of course, he doesn't do everything. He wasn't responsible for the tens of thousands of people that were killed in Lyon or Marseille or anywhere else. He wasn't responsible for any of the corruption that went on. He's against all of that. He thinks people should have pure motives, but he becomes a corrupt monster because it's useful for him to be one. And a lot of what's gone on ever since has been people deciding whether to either excavate him from under that pile of abuse or just pile more stuff on top of him. So he remains essentially divisive.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing to Smart Cookies on YouTube. What else is there? Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you really liked what you heard, feel free to become my Patreon. No, my patron on Patreon by going to Patreon and becoming my patron. It's really easy. Just type Smart Cookies Podcast in there. You should be able to find me. Last but not least, I have to thank the absolute legends that are my producers on this show, my existing patrons on Patreon: Aida, Mancian, Miha Medved, Medinho, Gordon, Jurechuk, Lorenzo, Mila, Carmen, Taichi, Goran, and Veronica. Without you guys, this show wouldn't exist. So massive thanks. And yeah, see you in the next episode. Bye.